Welcome to the Black Catholic Messenger podcast, where we keep it Black and we keep it Catholic. I'm Alessandra Harris.
I'm Stephen Staten.
And I'm Gunnar Gundersen. And today we're doing our BCM monthly roundup. So the goal here is to try to get the month in review, things that we saw this month that we thought were key issues to talk about. Maybe talk about some articles that came out in the BCM that we particularly found interesting. And then we'll wrap it up with whatever we got going on in our lives. What if we have any book recommendations, things we've been reading or watching. So I think we'll start with Alessandra. Just wanted to talk about Gloria Purvis's new podcast, right?
Yes, I did want to talk about that. So Gloria Purvis has a new podcast with America Magazine, and her first episode aired this week and it happened to be on the anniversary of the 1 year anniversary of the murder of George Floyd. And if you haven't yet, I would definitely say check out the podcast, subscribe. It was really great content, and it was just a breath of fresh air to hear Gloria back, able to just speak her truth, and really what she says resonated with me as a Black Catholic. She on the first episode, she had a priest named Father Eric Rutten, who is a priest at a Black Catholic parish in St. Paul, Minnesota. And they talked about George Floyd. They talked about all the different activism that happened as a result of his murder. They talked about the reaction, both positive and negative. And Gloria talked about the different reactions she's seen from white Catholics. And it just felt like a conversation that we as Black Catholics have amongst ourselves, but you don't really hear like mainstream Catholic, or let's say white Catholics, really talking about this. So I thought that it was really nice to hear her, and I'm super excited because next week I'm going to be interviewing Gloria for a Black Catholic Messenger piece. So definitely, I can't wait for that, and I can't wait for all of our readers to be able to listen to or see that interview.
Yeah, that's great. I was really fired up to see that they had the podcast. Gloria's just been so great, especially this past year with everything that happened. She says so much grace with so much unfairness thrown her way. She was someone that I met entirely online, but I experienced a lot of kind of anti-Black racism when I started speaking up in my communities, and she was totally there to support me, gave me a lot of support, and seeing her get the show really meant a lot. I was really fired up when she had that opportunity on Sam, and I was really sad when that turned out just to be a temporary thing. My joke there is that now the only Catholic radio program I listen on there is LL Cool J's Rock the Bells Radio. So LL Cool J is race Catholic, but also, a lot of respect to America Magazine for stepping up, America Media, and giving that platform to Gloria. I know we've all talked about before the dearth of platforms for Black Catholics and what's considered to be mainstream Catholic media. And America Media stepped up, and I hope they continue to stand by her and give her all the support she needs. It seems like they are, and I hope that they continue to grow with her. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, I just love that she got the show. Like as soon as that came out and like the news broke, I was so excited. I was like, yes, Gloria. Like I just knew that a lot of us were cheering. Like we were all, as Black Catholics and Catholics who are just interested in justice, like in racial justice and justice in general. We're so excited when Gloria finally got a show and finally got to be in a place where she could honestly relax and actually communicate what she's really thinking. I mean, she with the show that she was previously on, on EWTN, it was I watched the show because Gloria was on it. Like I well listened to the show because Gloria was on it mostly, and I'm like, wow, hey, there's some Black Catholics on here talking, and Gloria's really seeing how things are going. And then I was just so, it's like, as Black Catholics in general, when we see our perspectives being talked about, it's so exciting because there's so few spaces where we're able to speak. And it's like, when you talk about a broad general Catholic thing, it is usually the case, that it's the white Catholic experience that is centered, or it's looked at in a way of how can we Catholics reach out to these Black people, or how can we Catholics reach out to these Hispanic people or immigrants, when the case is that these populations are already Catholic. Like, there's already Black Catholics. Like, we aren't reaching out more than the fact that we're just looking at ourselves and describing our own experiences. So when Gloria really got the opportunity to be that and to embody that, I was just so excited. And it was unfortunate, the just the scenario of what happened, with her previous show, and who basically who they replaced her with, the Black Catholic that they replaced her with. And it was really unfortunate to see that, but I'm glad to see that she is she's moving along and really fighting for justice. Just like she said, like, after it happened, she's like, I'm still talking, I'm still doing what
Yeah.
I'm doing.
No, it's been great to see it develop how it has without her compromising. I mean, it's so proud and happy for Gloria and for everyone, for all of us, right? We're all elevated when she's stuck. She had her integrity, and now she has a wonderful platform. Really looking forward to it.
And I know people who are white who last year spoke out about the racism and George Floyd, and had received backlash. And as a result of that, I've noticed that they've kind of completely steered clear from talking about anything related to that, because it seems like they experienced the backlash. They don't want to go there again. And for Gloria, I feel like she is keeping it like 100%. Like, she's not like, I'm going to stop talking about it to appease people. It's like, no, I'm still going to speak my truth. I'm still going to call out the sin of racism. I'm still going to stand firm in what I believe. So I feel like that's really admirable. And I'm glad that she's doing that.
That's awesome. Well, speaking of backlash or or resistance to anti-racism work, maybe this is a good transition to what Stephen wanted to talk about from this past month. Stephen,
Okay.
you got
Yeah, sure. So just recently, I want to say, just like near the end of the month, it just came out that a priest from I want to say La Crosse, Wisconsin. Is that the yeah?
Yeah,
So
he's
in
in La
La Crosse,
Crosse, St. James the
Wisconsin.
Lesser. Yeah.
Yeah, so he's at James the Less Parish in La Crosse, Wisconsin. So this is from America Magazine. James James Altman is his name, and he was a pastor at St. James the Less. And he was asked by his bishop to step down. And he recently told the people at his mass that that he was asked to step down, and that he was, quote, divisive and ineffective, which can be described as accurate. And it was just, and he talked about how he was fighting this, and then he is actually has a fundraiser. And so, just to give some people who may not be aware some context, so this priest, he basically came into the public light and general light due to a viral video back in 2020, before the United States election, back in, like, on August 30th, 2020. And it was this video, and it was claiming that let's see. Yeah, it was claiming basically that, quote, you cannot be Catholic and be a Democrat, period, end quote. And so that was the viral video, and that just blew up, honestly. And many people watched the video, and it was used in Catholic context, against Catholics who, who may be Democratic in their party, or basically used as a wedge to sow division and to be like hyper. Just number one, hyper wrong. This is just not the church's teaching. Like, the church does not teach against the specific parties, and it doesn't prescribe a party for Catholics to follow. And so that's just wrong. It's incorrect. And the fact that this priest came into prominence based on a lie can really tell you just how frustrating it was, that he was prominent. But just to give even some more context, not only was he incorrect on that political front, he was also pretty viral before that video ever came out. So back in July, in the same year in 2020, Black Catholics already saw what this priest was doing. So his homilies were being put on YouTube. This is still during the pandemic. This is, so a lot of people are watching masses online. And in this homily in July, he just began to say things that were very, very inaccurate and racist. He actually blamed lynching in this homily. The homily was on Thursday, July 2nd, actually, just to give you some context. So you can look it up. It's Thursday, July 2nd, 8 a.m. morning mass at St. James Celeste in Wisconsin. And so it's on YouTube. And in the homily, he talks about how lynchings of Black people, so the lynchings that people are talking about, these racist events, he said, quote, homicides, and I'll say the R word, we're behind it all. So he blamed the lynchings on the Black people who were murdered publicly. And so he belittled and made excuses for them, which is very racist. And so Black people seeing this, he went on to say some other things in the homily. Like he ridiculed the way that people speak English. He said that people can't speak English well. He also misrepresented the amount of people who died during the Civil War and claimed that 360,000 white people died, to end slavery, when that actually included Black people. It was a bunch of stuff. I don't know where he got the facts from. Well, there weren't really facts. I don't know where he got the numbers from. And so in the Black Catholic community, we were like, hey, like, we got to reach out to the bishop. We got to do something. We got to talk to the parish. And it was just going around on Black Catholic media for a while. And we didn't really see much happening. Like, there wasn't as much traction going on. And there's a motorcycle outside. I don't know if y'all can hear that, but anyway, that really goes to show the experience of Black Catholics, or sometimes we've seen things way earlier than everybody else. And it seems like it takes a long time for active change to happen. So
President Trump, I could say Black people saw January 6th happening before he was elected. We saw that happen.
Yeah. And then but with this, I just wanted to really hit this home, that I am glad that the bishop has asked him to step down. But it's also very concerning, because with this whole thing, this priest is actually raking in funds. So he's raking in money. So that's another scandal in and of itself. Like, when we're in the church, we're struggling for resources as a parish, right? And our resources are to be used to, building up the body of Christ, be used for good things. It doesn't really matter, honestly, how much money we're spending, as long as we're doing it in good conscience and for good acts for Christ Jesus. I mean, we talk about the story of the woman who broke the box with the oil and put it on Jesus's feet. But that spending was for Jesus, was for the Lord. And so unfortunately, sometimes people can pour so much of that perfume out on situations like this, on these wild political leaders, if you want to call them that. Well, they are leaders, but of these really contentious personalities, and have these cults of personalities. I mean, he started to raise money. I actually have a link. He has like 2 fundraisers. And one of the fundraisers is they had a goal of $20,000. Now they've reached $315,000 in one of the fundraisers, and the second one has reached the second one has reached $275,000. So it's like it's creeping up on $600,000 is what is being spent on this man, basically for the sole reason of that his bishop asked him to step down because he was in fact divisive and ineffective. So it's just like it's honestly it's very much in my own mind a situation just like we see in the secular culture of the proverbial Karen who goes through something and there's some accountability, and then they're like, oh, I can't have this, and then so they make themselves into a victim. There's something else I want to talk about on this, but did anyone want to add something or any?
I just wanted to quote Gunnar's tweet about this and raising money. 4 days ago, he said, floored at reports that a priest removed from a parish whose misogynist and racist public statements are clear to all has received over 100,000 in donations, but we are told there is no money to keep Black parishes and schools open. And it's like, I mean, obviously it's even more than that, over $500,000, but that's exactly hitting the nail on the head. It's like, why are we saying we don't have money? And why are we closing all of these historically Black churches and closing Black schools in Black neighborhoods and saying we don't have money when clearly there's enough money in the church? It's just, there's just not the political will to keep our schools open, but people are going to be spending money for a priest who's clearly harming the Black community. Gunnar, when you had tweeted that, I mean, what were you thinking about all this?
Yeah, no, well, it's just, we had just gone through that cycle in Acts of the Apostles for the Sunday readings, and talking about the bishops and their authority and how the church at that time was one, how they shared everything in common. And there's the story of Ananias and his wife, and basically they try to hold something back from the community, and they drop dead, right, because they were holding the money back. So I started calling it, big St. Peter energy is what we needed. These bishops, people, we get this very individualistic attitude. So some people responded to those tweets that I had a few other ones like that, with, well, they're private donations, so what can you do about it? And it's like, well, their donations going to a Catholic priest, the bishops can, direct the money. At the end of the day, civil law, maybe he can walk away with that money and be fine, but there should be consequences for him taking that money for his private use in the church. And people should know that they can't just give money to whatever crazy cause in the church that's going to cause more harm and division in the church. Like, you don't have a right. Popes have had encyclicals on that you don't have an absolute right to your money. You have your property. It's for the common good. It's for the good of the church. And if you're using it in a way to further hurt people, the bishops need to step in and really manage what's going on with the donations, so we don't have a situation where marginalized communities that have been continued to be exploited even by the church itself aren't then told, oh, well, there's no money for you, but you got to watch this racist misogynist priest walk away with $600,000. That can't fly.
Yeah, and just to highlight the misogynist aspect, there was also another video that came out recently. So this priest has of course gone on the different interview tours. He's been on the Taylor Marshall show. He's been on Church Militant. He's been on what are some other, whatever they are, all the cycle. And in one of these interviews, he talked about how supposedly women, so I don't have the quote in front of me right now, but
It was basically women can't preach because they dissemble and are too concerned about their appearance and want
yeah,
to hear.
and that they don't
Yeah,
tell
it's
the
like terrible. I
truth.
mean, it's terrible. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like
It's so misogynist. It's like so bad. I
it
mean,
was crazy bad.
and my
I mean, no surprise after last July, but
correct. And my initial reaction wasn't even, my initial reaction was like, what am I watching? And then I was thinking like, if you're going to claim, like he said quote, like, oh, women are concerned with quote, does this dress make me look fat or something like that. That's the amount of misogyny that was there. And my initial reaction was like, this is a priest who was ordained to the priesthood, after the order of Melchizedek. Our mother, the highest creation of God is a woman. Like there's no other creation of God that is higher than Mary. The only person who's higher than Mary is God himself, Jesus Christ, and God himself. Like she's in Catholic theology, the pinnacle of all of creation, and the mother and of all of the church, of the whole universe. We even have feast days and devotions and all this stuff. And it's like, to say that, well, women can't preach because we won't get the truth out of women preach. Well, what is the fiat if women cannot tell the truth? I mean, in terms
yeah,
of
what's the Magnificat?
what's the Magnificat? Oh my goodness, right? And
then who
women
was
preach all the
teaching
time.
and who was teaching the apostles how to pray to prepare for the coming of the Holy Ghost at the Pentecost?
And who were the witnesses?
Right? I mean,
who saw the resurrection? I mean, and like I obviously it's different from liturgical preaching and stuff like that, but it's just like you can't make sweeping just lies like this, and then and expect it to fly in the Catholic Church. But unfortunately, in those circles, it
yeah, right. I mean, the ultimate testimony we have of the virgin birth is Mary, right?
Yeah.
If women can't be believed, I guess where does that leave the whole religion?
Mm. And then what's another? Oh, the second thing I just wanted to highlight. I was seeing this just recently today. So there has been a cult of personality that's built around Father Altman, and there was somebody created like this like religious icon or something with him in it, and it's like Jesus and like it's very odd. And so I saw this and I was like, whoa. And then people were tweeting about it like, this is messed up. But then I saw some Catholics who were basically both sidesing it and going like, oh, this is just like the icon with George Floyd. And I was like, no. Like, one, you have it's a white Wisconsin priest who was asked to step down through this racist and political scandal. Then you have this man who was brutally murdered on live and for everybody to see, and who called for his mother. And so there's an icon with Our Lady with him. Two totally different situations, but there's also Catholics who were like both sides saying, oh, this is the same thing. It's not the same thing. Like, he didn't go through this. The only thing that he supposedly went through, the only thing that he experienced was that he was asked to step down due to that divisive thing. So I just wanted to say that there is a difference there. And Black Catholics see that there's a difference there, and just rational people in general see that there's a difference. I just wanted to put that out there, just as if just in case somebody is looking at this and being shocked by what some are saying.
Well, thank you, Stephen. Gunnar, did you want to tell us what caught your eye this month?
Yeah, well, I guess to kind of do the other side of the coin, this isn't a both sides, but this is actually a uplift side. We had two Black Catholic priests both this past week. Well, this thing was getting attention, the Altman thing. Both had really great articles come out about racism in the church and ways to respond. Father Brian Massengale had an interview in America magazine, and I forgot the platform that Father Josh Johnson wrote in, But he wrote on basically a reflection of the past year since George Floyd died and how he responded to that. And they both had really great ideas about how to respond to racism outside and inside the church. Um, Father Josh's piece, I think, unsurprisingly, based on his, kind of his background and approach, focused a lot on like personal disciplines that you could do in terms of reaching out, building a community and parishes to do the anti-racism work. He had a great prayer for fighting racism in his article. I'll send you the link so maybe we can put it into the podcast description.
Oh, definitely.
And then also, not surprisingly, Brian Massengale had a more systemic type approach to the issue. Interestingly, he talked about his experience doing a talk on racism in the church in South Africa. And the people in South Africa told him that, they were surprised that he had so much resistance getting people to acknowledge racism in the United States. Because in South Africa, it's not that they don't have, obviously they do have a racism problem, but they admit that they have a racism problem. Unlike here where it's people don't want to talk about it even. And so, but they both had really great explanations too why when white people don't want to address the racism, how that harms them too, right? It's not just Black people that are harmed by racism. And so I recommended to everybody to read both of those articles. I thought they were both very helpful, and they both kind of hit slightly different parts of the problem from different angles. But they both gave, I think, a lot of great, also concrete steps on things that people could do, both in their personal devotional life and also as part of building a parish and also a society, the steps to take to really get the ball rolling on dismantling systemic racism, both outside and inside the church. So it was great to see that.
That's really great. Both Father Josh and Father Brian are wonderful priests who are very articulate and speak out against racism. And I'm really grateful for their voices in the church.
Yeah, and a lot of times we do have folks who aren't interested and just like want to know like what can I do, and sometimes they may turn to us as Black Catholics like, hey, what can I do? I don't know. And sometimes we do have some some tips, but then it's also great to have like a dedicated like resource and a dedicated place to go. Yeah, it's much needed.
Yeah, and that's why I definitely highly recommend both of those articles that came out this past week. They really, even sometimes yourself, you're like, oh man, how do I move forward with this? And they both clearly put in a lot of work and thought on how to do that. And they give a lot of great information, both those articles. So for myself and to share with other people. So I highly recommend it.
To wrap up our show, why don't we all talk about something that we've either watched or are reading and, that other people could check out? Stephen, do you want to go first?
Not yet. Not yet. I'll look.
I'll save you then. I'll save you. So I did watch Exterminate All the Brutes on HBO. I do highly recommend it. I wrote a piece, a review of it on BCM, and then that inspired me because he part of the source material he used for that was an Indigenous Peoples History of the United States by Roxanne Dunbar Ortiz, which I just finished reading. Wow, it was really powerful, and I highly recommend that. I think it helps you really think about the whole history of the United States from the Indigenous perspective. And it's definitely, I think, an important perspective to really sit with as Americans. I mean, especially in light. I mean, I don't know if you guys all just saw it's getting big on Twitter right now. The news of the 200 or so human remains they found in a church school. I believe it's Catholic church school in Canada. 200 something souls that are just buried under there that they had never accounted for. So I think, the role of our country, the role of our church with respect to the Native people, it's a big deal. Was a little sad both in the book and in the movie that when there are these kind of Catholic heroes who we all know look to the faith for their liberation as well, whether it's Toussaint Overture in Haiti or Black Elk, who featured both in the HBO miniseries and in the Indigenous Peoples book. They're Catholic, and that part of their identity really wasn't explored by the filmmakers or the author of the book. And Raoul Peck was pretty open that he had a crisis of faith when he was young, and so I think there's a little hostility. I mean, you can understand also because of the institutional church and things they did, but I would have appreciated a more complete picture of some of the folks who are working to fight against the oppression as well, and the role that faith played in their life.
Okay, I'm ready now. Sorry, I just didn't have the link up here. So this is sort of, I mean, well, yeah, definitely a different topic, but I read was reading an article by Eve Tushnet on America Magazine, and it's actually about how it's titled "Conversion Therapy is Still Happening in Catholic Spaces, and its effects on LGBT people can be devastating." And so Eve Tushnet, for those who are unaware, she is a Catholic who does write about the experiences of LGBT people, and as one herself and myself, I really find her work very inspiring, just because of how she, by embracing the church's, to the depths of the church's teaching, and also really speaking into her own experience, it helps Catholics understand how we can be more loving, and I know loving sounds a bit typical, but really truly willing the good of people who are in our family, and like her work really serves to do that. And so it's talking about conversion therapy, and it's really sad. I mean, in the article, it's on America Mag. She wrote it in May 13th, and really reading that was great, just because the Catholic Church doesn't teach that you have to like convert your sexual orientation or anything like that. And however, even though that's not the church's teaching, there can be Catholic spaces or individual Catholics that may go to that, or may recommend that to people. And this was a very in-depth article on just like its effects, and just what the experience of LGBT people is, in the Catholic Church, in regards to that. And like in my own experience, I just remember being just being relieved coming into the church, knowing the church's teaching and embracing it, that I didn't have to go through a conversion therapy, or to pray this out of me or something like that, or to change in that degree. I was very relieved and embraced the church's teaching, but unfortunately, I remember one time I was in confession, and like this priest had recommended me to like an actual conversion therapy thing. That was really disturbing. And I mean, I went through, I didn't go through the thing, but I was like, oh, thank you, blah blah blah. But I was like, man, like, yikes! I don't know how many people has this priest recommended this. And then also, another time I was kind of discerning just like my vocation, or like whether I wanted to like even join like a religious community. And the priest had suggested, like, was basically interrogating me about like my orientation or something like that. And it was basically pressuring me to like, oh, I would have to quote unquote like deal with that before I would join, or it would somehow change. And it would honestly pressure just a regular person to be dishonest about their orientation. And I don't think that's a healthy way to go about it. I mean, I think you have to integrate your entire self in a vocation. And if that's not something that you're able to integrate, then it's it's not going to be good. It's not going to be good. So I think it's a very important thing to highlight, even though, yeah, it's not the church's teaching. We don't teach any conversion therapy, but it's really good to see just where, unfortunately, it may be pushed. And also knowing that, that June is coming up, and it's a Pride Month, and we're talking about LGBT people. That's going to be a bit more highlighted. And it's also the month, June is also the month of the Sacred Heart. And I think it's also important for us to remember that LGBT people are, nested in the heart of Jesus. Like he loves all of us, and it's such passionate love for these, children of his. And so I just think it's really important for people to be aware of this, and to have like a really authentically Catholic, I don't know, the authentically Catholic approach, narrative surrounding it, because it's like, oh yeah,
Yeah,
you're
like Jesus says, right? Like to like not adding extra burdens, human made burdens on people, right?
yeah,
Like you said, it's not part of church teaching to demand this, and they're adding it to people. And then you look at the situations, like that's the pressure you were getting exploring seminaries, yet someone who's actually has thoughts that are contrary to church teaching about racism, like Father Altman basically got through. He got through.
yeah,
He was
just
never that him going through the conversion of not being a racist never happened. So,
mhm.
which is actually which is something that the church does require, that you not be a racist.
Yeah, and
So it's an interesting juxtaposition.
yeah, and the thing is, like, what's unfortunate is, like, there is it's a historic thing. There's been a development where there's an idea that, like, for example, like with the gay Catholic or something, there's an idea that there is an opposition between being gay, having like a same-sex attracted orientation. And there's this idea, there's a contrast between that and being Catholic, when in actuality it's not. And saying that actually perpetuates more stress onto Catholics who may be LGBT or may have that experience, because it's stress, because it's like, man, like I can't do this. Like I have to go through this therapy. I have to be silent. I have to do whatever. I mean, there's not that many options, full stop. So the church is, develops, in terms of how to embrace, the body of Christ. But it's like, man, like, to have that opposition, it's not good. We gotta integrate all this. We gotta go like, yeah, this is Sacred Heart Month. Yeah, we are in the Sacred Heart of Jesus. We do love Jesus, and there is a place to be fully Catholic, in the church, and not have a heterosexual orientation. And it's like, there's so much there, that, I mean, there could probably even be like a whole nother podcast episode about it. But like,
Yeah, I was about to say, it sounds like we got the beginnings of a podcast for June here.
maybe,
Yeah.
and I have good friends, like Grant Hartley, Ryan McQuaid, great guys. But and then Eve Tushnet, which I hope I'll meet at some point. And but yeah, and then also here in San Francisco, just um exploring, seeing how there even is a possibility of, expanding of ministries and stuff. But that's like really in the works. I'm not the one leading that. It's somebody else I know. But yeah, so yep, yeah, that's what I've been reading. So it was a good article. I recommend it. It's called "Conversion Therapy is Still Happening in Catholic Spaces, and Its Effects on LGBT People Can Be Devastating." So it shows you, like, yeah, like, embrace the church's teaching, embrace the church, but also, you don't need to bring all this in there. So yeah.
All right. Well, no better person to close us out than Alessandra here.
Well, I'm unfortunately going to have to end the show without giving my recommendation just because I have to run my daughter to basketball practice. But I will definitely make sure to give you all a show or an article that I read next time we do this. But I just want to say thank you to everyone for listening. If you haven't yet subscribed to us on YouTube, on our Apple podcast, or what is the other one? Android or Google, on the Google platform.
Yeah.
And we will see you guys next time. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
You.